Hello, everyone. My name is Jess Ekstrom, and I am the founder of Headbands of Hope. As you can see that I am wearing here, for every headband sold, we donate one to a child with cancer. And if you're wondering where I am, it might look like I'm in a spaceship. I'm actually in an Airstream trailer, which I have been traveling around the country for my book tour all year, Chasing the Bright Side, which I believe you guys have a copy of, which is super exciting. But a little bit about me and my startup. I am also a Leadership alumni, and I can tell you firsthand what an amazing experience it was. So I did Leadership the summer of 2011, or right before the summer of 2011. And then I used the framework from Leadership that I learned right before I went into my internship with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So as I got to Make-A-Wish, I was already thinking about how I could solve the world's problems because that was what Leadership taught me. And when I was at Make-A-Wish, I saw that there were a bunch of kids who were losing their hair to chemotherapy and they'd be offered a wig or a hat. And a lot of them weren't really concerned with covering up their heads. They just wanted to feel good about themselves. So I would see them wearing headbands. And I just thought it was the coolest gesture of confidence that they wanted to wear something and not cover up their heads, but feel good about it. So this was this initial spark of an idea. And you guys all probably already have ideas, or maybe you're noodling on something. And it's sometimes, you have this idea and you're like, okay, now what? And the idea of creating this huge thing, like starting the next Spotify or Airbnb or whatever it might be, seems really daunting. So I challenge you to take a step back, don't get overwhelmed, and don't think about the Super Bowl. Just think about getting the first down. Because when we overwhelm ourselves with a long runway ahead, we don't work on what's right in front of us. Also, we can't wait for the perfect time, because the perfect time doesn't exist. As soon as I got the idea for Headbands of Hope, I decided, why not now? I was going into my junior year of college, and I was studying communications. I had no idea what I was doing, and I'll get to a little bit more of how I got it going. But to date, we're a multi-million-dollar company, and we're sold in 2,000 retailers, and we've donated headbands to every single children's hospital in America in 15 countries. But it was not always that easy. So what I challenge you to do now is I want you to think about the problem that you're solving with your business. So get a blank sheet of paper, notepad, whatever it might be. And on the left side, I want you to write out the problem. So like, what is the thing? I like to call it having an itch. When you have an itch, you scratch it. So kids not feeling good about themselves after losing their hair to chemotherapy, that was my itch. That was the problem I was set out to solve. Headbands of Hope, which provides headbands to kids going through chemotherapy, was my scratch. That was my solution. So on the left side of the page, write what that itch is. What is that problem? And then on the right side of the page, write your scratch. What is your company uniquely doing to solve this problem? Because we get so caught up in the logistics of business, but really it's just about creating solutions. It's about creating what you wish existed, because chances are if you wish it existed, then there's a whole population out there that also wish it existed, and they're probably willing to pay for it. Another thing I want to tell you is don't write with a pen when you're writing these ideas. Write with a Sharpie or with a marker, because that forces you to keep your ideas big. Think broad, because the little plans that you're going to put in there, the little bullet points, are probably going to change anyway. They changed a lot for me. So think big, think about that itch and how you are going to create that scratch. And then I want you to think about, what are the small things that I could do right now to get this idea off the ground? Because when we think about, let's say, starting a brick and mortar store, my friend Leslie, she wanted to start this brick and mortar store and sell juices. But starting a store is really expensive and you have to find the space. So instead, she started riding her bike around with this cooler on the back, selling these cold pressed juices. And once she sold enough, by riding her bike around, she bought these vending machines, and she would put these vending machines in different stores to sell her juices. And then once she sold enough through the vending machines, then she was able to open up her own store. But it went in these phases. It wasn't like going down the Black Diamond first. It was first going down the bunny hill. So I want you to look at your kind of sort of business plan, which are in your, which should be a downloadable for you guys. And then I want you to think about loosely, like, what are some ways that you can get your business idea off the ground? I call it your kind of sort of business plan because I don't want you to feel like whatever you're doing now, you are stuck and that you have to have everything figured out. Think loosely about your idea. I like to say, like, instead of holding your idea with this clenched fist, hold it with an open palm. Because if you are so set on the outcome of your business and what you want it to be, then you won't be dynamic. You won't like adapt if something isn't going right because you have this one set plan. Instead, hold it with an empty palm and say, it could land over here, could land over there. And that's why we're doing our kinda sorta business plan. So you're not glued to your idea. Just look at your business plan and start thinking, who are your customers? Why would they buy it? What's the financial model here? Who's paying? Why are they paying? So start to use your kinda sorta business plan to get that initial itch scratch into a more formulated idea. And then I want you to think about what resources you have. So for example, when I got the idea to start Headbands of Hope, I couldn't even spell entrepreneur. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's a tough word. But I was looking at different resources that I had while being a college student. I walked over to the business school, asked business professors for 15 minutes of their time. I'm like, okay, what are taxes and should I be concerned about them? I used the library at my university to rent a really nice camera so I could take product photos. I stood in front of different classes when teachers would let me and told them about Headbands of Hope and where they could buy them. I asked the school newspaper to do an article the day that I launched. I went to the graphic design school and asked a teacher to have a class create me a logo, and that was how I got my logo. I worked with the textile school to create my first product. And so little by little, things with my business started to come together, not by focusing on what I didn't have, but by focusing on what was right in front of me. So I want you to take the other doc that you have that is use your resources. Who are the key people who can help you? Maybe someone you know who's been there before. Any websites, books, guides that you have access to helpful technology. I mentioned that I use the library a ton. They also had Photoshop that was free for students, and that was super helpful. And then I want you to think about what's the lowest hanging fruit. So when I say lowest hanging fruit, I mean, what is the easiest thing that you can do right now with the biggest amount of return? So we can spend a lot of time, let's just say, naming products. We could research the heck out of naming all of these things, but at the end of the day, it's not going to move the needle. What you name your product is what you name your product. But instead, what if there was something easy that you could do right now, like sending a few emails to different bloggers, and that could then be the thing that gets people to buy your product. That was the first time people bought Headbands of Hope that I didn't know, was when I reached out to these 5 fitness bloggers. So what is the low-hanging fruit? And then below that, you have your game plan. So what can you do today? What are the things you can do today? What can you do this week, this month, and in 6 months? But what's really important about it is focusing on what can you do today? What feels light to you right now, and start there. Because I think that the biggest thing of why businesses fail is not because of lack of resources, but because of lack of being resourceful. Looking at what's around you, what feels light to you right now, because the small things add up. Trust me, my business, Headbands of Hope, is built off of small things. So let's start with what can you do today?